A big week for the resources, and we did see this particular sector boost the JSE to new records. Donovan Braam, he's a commodities trader at RMB. He's joining us at the desk to give us some insight. Donovan, thanks. Earlier on, Ian and I were talking about the likes of Kumba Iron Ore having a really good run, then pulling back, and he said we should rather be a bit cautious. So based on that, do you agree with Ian? Just give us the overall of the resources.
100%. I mean, iron ore trading above $100 all the way down to below 50, and then a massive bounce of there. If you look at it in percentage terms, almost like 20%, which is a very, very good bounce. But I think on a technical level, I'd look at iron ore between 47 and 60, and we're stuck now at 57. And to really say we can expect good things in iron ore, I think we need to get back above that 60 level. I think is the first resistance level for iron ore at the moment. But I agree with what Ian said earlier, and I don't see any fireworks really coming in that market. I think if we look at the numbers from China, forecasts generally seem to be pretty consistent that we probably not going to get that 7% growth that seemed to have been a benchmark, albeit a lower one. And so I think that's going to weigh heavily on iron ore.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's interesting, it's not just iron ore, it's where it goes to. Look at then at the steel manufacturers. It's telling us that the growth in industrial activity, in manufacturing, is going to be less than it has been in the last couple of years. And I think one should then apply that through the economies of the major industrialized nations too.
I think you're absolutely right there, and I don't really trade much iron ore, but I generally look at it quite closely in terms of the impact on other metals. For example, when your economies are booming, one of the first metals to go in would be your iron ore. One of the next ones to go in would be your copper, and you sort of have a knock-on effect, and with certain time lags as well. And I think if we look at the copper price, just like iron ore, it's bounced, but it's not really going into territory to make you really very excited. I think with copper, I'm looking at a base of 58.60 and resistance at 62.90.
What about gold? I know that's one of these the metals that you look at. Does safe haven appeal, given the fact that we are trading in such cautious times?
Well, a month, 2 months ago, we were speaking about deflation in various parts of the world and the possibility of that. Now you're sort of moving away from deflation. That whole fall in the oil price, I think, has been factored in, and now we're starting to look at inflation reissues again. Some countries experiencing more inflation, like in South America, we're having certain problems there, for example, Brazil. Inflation is not yet a concern, but I think it's back on the radar screens, to put it that way. And then you're going to look at commodities like gold to see some value there. But I think overall, we're sort of in no man's land. When are we going to hike interest rates in the US, etc., etc.? And if we look at the way certain markets have been reacting to each other, for example, the weakness in the dollar yesterday, and we didn't see the knock-on effect in gold. So that just tells me we're still very much range-bound in most markets.
And I just wonder, you know, we talked just a moment ago about the outlook, investment outlook. Return of capital was becoming more important than return on capital. Well, you don't get a big return on gold, but perhaps it's saying there is some resurgence of the safe haven status, because at least it's a safe place to keep capital for the time being.
Very much so. And if you look at markets that where a lot of gold goes into, like for example, India, it's exactly that reason why they buy so much gold, or at least one of the reasons. Yes. Bad thing there is we're having a very bad monsoon season in India, and so we expect the gold demand there not to be as good as it was. Having said that, we've just had 2-3 record months of gold, exporting gold into India. The demand there has just been phenomenal over the last few months.
Moving on to, you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay, moving on to another particular commodity, Brent crude. $65 a barrel is where we are. What's happening there? We seem to be getting pushed up very slightly every now and then, but we on the up, no?
Well, it reacted very odd yesterday. For example, the numbers in the US showed an inventory build. One of the main places that we look at for inventory in the US is Cushing, however, which has become less of a significant place than it used to be. And their inventory dropped. immediately the price of oil spiked almost $2. So almost like the opposite of what you would think. But I think it's a very, very interesting market in terms of the countries that, for example, Iran is starting to produce again, and at one point in time they were the second biggest OPEC producer. And so their fields are coming back online. Some problems in the oil fields in Libya. But I think generally what the market is looking at is now the demand part of that, of the oil curve. I think the supply side is there. There's still an oversupply. Issues with the oversupply in that the low prices, some of the shale gas oil is not as profitable, while it's actually unprofitable. And that's one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia has been continuing to pump out record amounts of crude. So I still say we're going to be range bound. We've had a nice bounce of the lows, but I don't see us back anywhere close to above 80.
Gee, that's still quite optimistic from where we are now. But nevertheless, it's very interesting what you're saying about production. Look at the Saudis. Look at the potential that there is if the price goes a little bit higher. It puts a bit of a cap on it, doesn't it? And maybe, like the other industrial metals you were making, we're going to see a fairly narrow range, but basically a sideways trend rather than a strong growth trend for the foreseeable future.
Well, I think for the gold price action spells it out for me. I look at round numbers and it basically brings psychological support or resistance. So when you break above a number like 1200, you expect it to run a little bit. It hasn't done that. It's broken above 1200, broken back below 1200, and like we were saying yesterday with the dollar weakness yesterday, we didn't see the corresponding move in gold that we would expect to see. So which again tells me we're in range-bound markets. Albeit, I'd rather be long than short at the moment with most of them.
Donovan, thank you so much. Still range bound when it comes to gold. Thanks to Donovan Braam. He is a commodities trader at RMB.